So, as a sort of continuation of the analysis of 2022 midterms, I wanted to talk about probably the biggest issue that caused Republicans to lose, and that is the sort of student loan debt relief. And I think that the reason that this issue was so pressed, because Republicans view this as fiscally irresponsible and paying for other people's stuff, but they're also okay with Social Security, Medicare, all this kind of stuff, veterans benefits, which that is paying for someone else's stuff. Those are all the same, theoretically the same thing. You're paying for someone else's either their health care or their sort of a pension plan through the Social Security. It is still paying for another person. Somehow they just view it slightly differently. And this is why a lot of people can view Republicans and Democrats both as sort of being socialist light, I guess. Whereas maybe like Republicans are socialist light and Democrats are just full on socialists a lot of times. So when you're looking at this, this could have been easy win if Republicans could have just ignored the student loan debt relief. Instead, they decided to attack it in courts, go after it, and all this stuff, and file lawsuits against the student loan debt relief, and get the actual get the federal courts involved. And apparently, as of I think yesterday, federal courts have delayed it, at least basically stopped, provided a blockage on that legislation going through, and becoming being passed, or like is actually being implemented. Like so they provided a block on that. I don't know how long that will last, and if they'll if they'll win to completely block it. But this is part of the reason that Gen Z, a lot of the younger generations or millennials, pulled more for Democrat in this 2022 midterm election. Uh, I'm as concerned as anyone else about the fiscal responsibility of our government. I believe that they should, be more and more fiscally responsible all the time. They shouldn't spend more than they have. Live within their means, just like every individual has to within America. Um, and I just that's just how I feel about it. But while also believing that, I also know that this is a completely losing issue by every metric for Republicans. If you do this, you become the party of the elite. And I mean, I know that there are a lot of elite people who will go to institutions, blah blah blah. But those kids are trust fund babies, and they have their college paid for by mommy and daddy. Those people, this doesn't necessarily apply. Mommy and daddy may help some, but I mean, a lot of the student loan debt relief, a lot of it is going to be going to, maybe they're higher income earners now or whatever, but these are these are not like these are not. It's not all bourgeoisie elite types that are getting this student loan debt relief. So railing against it means you're railing against the common person. Like a lot of these people, are common people who got the loan because they thought that it was going to be beneficial. They didn't think about how they were going to pay it off. They didn't really have a plan. Some of them, some people may have paid theirs off. I mean, that may be fine. I don't care really. But there is, there's this sort of hand wringing over this when every single time that money or whatever something is actually going to go to Americans, as opposed to whenever we do corporate bailouts, we send money to Ukraine, we do all these other things. There's never a complaint about how much money we're spending there. But then Republicans will go hand wringing over I didn't see Ted Cruz hand wringing over spending money in Ukraine. I didn't see Ted Cruz hand wringing over people getting PPP loans and abusing that whole system throughout the COVID pandemic. I didn't see any of that hand wringing. None of it. None of that hand wringing. Oh, this is terrible. All this kind of stuff that they spewed about the student loan debt. Really, oh, do you want to pay for some kids' student loans? No, nobody does. Okay, nobody really does. In reality, no one really wants to pay for that. But here's the thing: is that by opposing this, you are opposing some people who have been helped or would be helped by this program. And they're actual regular voters. They're normal people. They're not bourgeoisie elites. They're not trust fund babies, because the trust fund babies get their college paid for anyway. So this is just average people that you're alienating by choosing to go after something that would actually help the average American. Honestly, I would be okay with this program. To sign. I don't want. I would prefer the government not be involved in student loans at all. That would be the preference here. Let me preface all of what I'm saying with I would prefer the federal government not be involved with making loans between institutions and individuals. There shouldn't be any of that sort of setup for federal government to loan money to people to go to public institutions, which are also sort of public money, publicly funded. Um, so that even privately funded, it should all be private loans. If you want to go take out a loan and a bank wants to loan out to you to be able to finish your degree, then that's up to between you and the bank and all that kind of stuff. That would be preferable, right? But in this sort of environment, with the sort of stipulations and all the things that have been happening, this is the least fiscally irresponsible thing that they've done by actually giving money to Americans. Just like whenever they were sent, I know that the checks cause all these stimmy checks cause more inflation and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, how much does a $1,200 payment to mere you really impact as much as millions for McDonald's or whatever business that they can file for? Millions for um, all these big establishment businesses, right? Like where Chase Bank can file for PPP loan and get money just because they were impacted by the pandemic. All these big crony phony institutions bailing out the airlines, which should be able capable of funding themselves in some way. Bailing out all these industries, bailing out the cruise lines, all of these sort of this process of just continually bailing out these businesses, bailing out this kind of stuff, and doing all these things that we continue doing, spending all this money on things that are not atomized down to the level of each individual American. And then you want to complain about it whenever Americans get a dime of any of it. So this was always my point of contention. When little people like us, like who are average Americans, I'm not rich, I'm not wealthy, I don't claim to be. I don't have massive coffers of money to just be able to deal with any situation that comes into my life or whatever. But you know, and this is someone. This I'm saying this as someone who did pay off what little student loans that I did get. And the reason that I don't care about it is just because it's going directly to individual people. It's going to be going to them for their student loans and either helping pay on that student loan, or they get sort of, I think there are some sort of cash rebate sort of thing or whatever. And I don't care if I benefit from that or not. I don't know that I would or I wouldn't based on the timeline of whenever I paid off my student loan. But even if I didn't, even if I never benefit from these dollars are going to actual Americans, and I would much rather have that than have those dollars being spent in Ukraine, being spent on bailing out businesses, being spent on bailing out all this other stuff. Because if you know, even though I don't want to do free gives, even though I don't want to do all this kind of stuff, they're doing all of this for all these other businesses. Everybody else is getting a cut of this. Okay, and I think that it's only fair that you know people of you or I, our caliber of just general American, do deserve a win every now and then. I don't think that it should all be going to corporate cronies. I don't think that it all should all be going to establishment garbage, funding foreign wars and all this kind of stuff. If it's going in the pockets of actual Americans, I'm not going to wring my hands over. I do think that it's fiscally irresponsible. I do think that there are other ways to handle a lot of these things, and especially you could offset a lot of the cost of this by you could offset a lot of the cost of this by um, seizing some of the endowments from colleges. Like you can seize some of the endowments, pay people's seize college endowments for a couple years, and then pay out to everybody over the next couple years, and then that would be essentially a way to almost nullify some of the spending itself. And there are a lot of ways and tools that they have their disposal to do that kind of stuff. But I don't know what they're going to do. I assume most of it would just be printed, which sucks. I mean, but like I said, if all that does is provide some relief for your average American, for someone who just did what they were doing. They thought they were doing the best thing possible. They went to college, and then they wanted to they didn't weren't able to pay off their student loan. I mean, I don't. I'm not going to. I think that they should have been more fiscally responsible themselves. There's a lot of nuances to that, but I do think that dollars going to average Americans is always going to be better. Dollars going to your average American is always going to be better than them going to some sort of foreign war. All these other kind of things. There are missiles being shot right now in Ukraine that could have the money spent on those missiles could have funded this kind of project. So I don't have any qualms over this kind of. I'm not going to quarrel over this kind of stuff, and I think that Republicans, if they want to win, they need to stop whining about this kind of stuff, this kind of fiscal irresponsibility. If they're not also going to be fiscally responsible in every other possible way, and if they want to actually get the back on the side of the people and get the will of the people back, in line with what they want to do, then you're going to have to do something for the average American. And this is just that. It's doing something for the average American, and you can't fault it. You can't. There's no reason to be wringing your hands over it. So that's part of what I think is one of the big reasons that it got Gen Z voters out to the polls, because they were excited about this. They want to keep this going. And I think that they knew that Democrats will continue delivering like this for them, and we just need to win from our side if we want to actually get people back on our side. So that's all I have. I just wanted to sort of do a short rant about talking about the student loan debt relief. I'm still seeing, especially after seeing the result, a lot of people were doing a lot of hand wringing over it, saying, "Oh, it's fiscally responsible," all this kind of stuff. And they only do this whenever it comes to average Americans getting a win, I guess. So, with that out of the way, I just wanted to say that if you like the video, if you like the sort of rant, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Also, there are links in the description for everything you want to find out about what I do. And that's all I have for today. This is Trey from Trey's Think Tank. I don't know.